Okay, so picture this. Hollywood in its golden age. You know, those glamorous stars, those iconic films, those red carpets, it just screams cinema, right? But even those golden days, well, they couldn't last forever.
Right.
Today, we're diving deep, going behind the scenes to uncover how Hollywood's legendary studio system, this seemingly unstoppable force, well, how it eventually crumbled.
Yeah.
And trust me, this isn't just some dusty old Hollywood history. This is about power struggles, rebellion, and honestly, it's about how even the biggest, most established systems, they can change. And that's something we can all relate to, right?
Absolutely.
So let's set the stage. Back in the day, the studio system pretty much ruled Hollywood. We're talking about studios like MGM, Warner Bros. These are the heavy hitters, churning out movies like a well-oiled machine.
It really was like a factory system.
Totally. They had these huge stars under contracts, controlled every single aspect of a film, from the script to the editing, and basically what they said went.
What I find fascinating about this period is the whole idea of vertical integration. These studios, they didn't just make the films, they owned the theaters where you went to watch them.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. They controlled everything.
It was a brilliant, if not a little, well, controlling business model.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It's like that whole thing with Bette Davis. We can talk about a legend, but even she felt the studio's grip, you know?
Oh, absolutely. She craved just a little recognition, some appreciation from the studio heads.
Exactly. Remember that interview she did? I think it was on the Dick Cavett show. She talks about Jack Warner, the head of Warner Bros.
Yeah.
And she practically says she wished he had just once, told her she did a good job in a movie.
It's kind of heartbreaking when you think about it.
It is. And it really shows you just how much power those studios had over an actor's career, their whole life, really.
It's true. But it also speaks to a very human need, that desire for autonomy, for creative control, to feel like you have a voice and to be treated fairly. And, that desire, that need, it was actually a driving force behind the studio system's eventual downfall.
And that's where Olivia de Havilland comes in, right?
Yeah.
She took on the studios and she won. I mean, there's a law named after her, the de Havilland Law.
Exactly.
It was about giving actors more say in their careers, wasn't it?
That's right. De Havilland's legal battle was a turning point. She was fighting for better roles, fairer pay, and the freedom to actually choose projects that she believed in.
And she won.
She did. And that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Suddenly, the studios didn't seem so invincible anymore.
So it's like they open this door and actors are thinking, hey, maybe there's a way out of this whole studio system thing.
It was a sign of the times, really. Remember, this is post-World War II. The world is changing. People are questioning everything.
So it wasn't just happening in Hollywood.
Exactly. There were huge cultural shifts happening everywhere.
And audiences, they wanted something different too.
Right.
They were tired of those same old kind of predictable movies.
Exactly. Audiences were craving more complex stories, something with a little depth. The post-war world was a complicated place, and the movies, they needed to reflect that.
Which brings us to Humphrey Bogart.
Right.
I mean, he was already a big star with Warner Bros. But once he went independent, his roles, I don't know, they just got so much more interesting. The African Queen, the Caine Mutiny.
Totally.
It's like he could finally be himself on screen.
Absolutely. Bogart's independent films, they tapped into that desire for something different. He became a symbol of this new kind of leading man, more human, more relatable.
And then there's United Artists. Were they even a real studio? I've always been a little fuzzy on that.
Not in the traditional sense. It was more of a collective.
Right.
It was the brainchild of some of the biggest names in Hollywood at the time. Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford.
Legends.
Exactly. And they were some of the first to really understand the power of controlling your own destiny, your own work.
So they joined forces to kind of
Pool their resources, finance their own projects, distribute them. They were done answering to the big studios.
talk about a power move.
It was a complete rejection of the old way of doing things. And you know what? It worked.
They showed everyone it could be done.
Their success was huge. And it was a clear sign of things to come. You could say that United Artists, they were kind of like the blueprint for the independent film movement.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing for the studios.
Right.
We were talking about that big lawsuit earlier.
Oh, right. Yeah.
1948. The U.S. government goes after Paramount Pictures.
It was a landmark case.
The government basically said they had too much power. They were like, hey, you're running a monopoly here.
It's true. The government accused them of violating antitrust laws. And it wasn't just Paramount in the hot seat. This case, the Paramount Decree, as it came to be known, it targeted the entire studio system.
Because they controlled everything. I mean, from production to, like, literally owning the theaters where people saw the films.
Exactly. And the courts, well, they agreed. They said, you have to sell off your theater chains.
Whoa. So they lost their guaranteed audience just like that.
It was a major blow to their dominance. Just imagine a major corporation today being told they had to give up a huge part of their business. That's what happened here.
Talk about shaking things up.
And if that wasn't enough, there was another, even bigger development on the horizon, something that would change Hollywood forever: television.
It's like they're already down, and then TV just comes in and delivers the knockout punch.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to go to the movies when you've got entertainment right there in your living room?
And for free, right? It was a huge challenge for the studio.
So what'd they do? Just give up.
Not quite. Some tried to go bigger, you know? Pouring money into these massive epics, hoping to create a spectacle that TV just couldn't touch.
Yeah, like, look at this. We've got widescreen, color, and a cast of thousands. Try doing that on your tiny black and white TV.
Exactly. But it was a gamble. And without their theater chains, well, the stakes were higher than ever.
And that's where Dr. Dolittle comes in, right? Wasn't that supposed to be one of those big, splashy, save the studio kind of movies?
It was, and it flopped hard.
Ouch.
It nearly bankrupted 20th Century Fox. The old way of doing things, it just wasn't working anymore.
So where do we go from here? What happens to Hollywood?
Well, it doesn't disappear.
That's good.
But it does change. It evolves. This is where we see the rise of what's known as the auteur theory.
The auteur theory. Okay, break that down for me.
Basically, it's the idea that the director, they're not just a hired hand. They're the real author of a film. Their vision, their style, it's what makes a movie unique.
So we're talking Hitchcock, Kubrick. They become almost bigger than the studios themselves. Their names, they're above the title, they guarantee a certain kind of movie.
Precisely. And this leads to more personal films, riskier films. Directors start exploring complex themes, experimenting with new techniques. Hitchcock with his suspense, Kubrick with his visuals. These become trademarks, signatures.
And we still see that today, right? I mean, you think about directors like Tarantino or the Coen brothers. You know, you're watching their film. There's a style there, you know. It's not just some generic action flick or whatever.
Exactly. That focus on individual vision, that's a legacy of the auteur theory. And it wasn't just the big names. This shift, it creates opportunities for a whole new generation of filmmakers. Guys like Roger Corman, for example.
The king of the B-movie.
That's the one. He gave early breaks to so many now huge names: Jack Nicholson, Francis Ford Coppola, James Cameron.
Wow.
And Corman, he didn't have huge studios backing him, but he had passion, he had drive, and he was willing to take risks. He embodied this new spirit in Hollywood, this do-it-yourself attitude.
So it's like the studio system kind of falls apart, and from those pieces, something new emerges, something maybe even better.
It's a great way to look at it. And, you know, it's worth remembering that change can be a good thing. It can be messy, it can be chaotic, but it can also lead to amazing things. New voices, new ideas, new ways of telling stories. The studio system, for all its flaws, it gave us some incredible films.
Classics.
But it also had limitations. And who knows what kind of amazing films we'd be missing out on if things hadn't changed.
So we've gone from these all-powerful studios to, well, this more diverse, more creative, maybe even a little bit chaotic landscape.
That about sums it up.
And as a film lover, I gotta say, it's been one heck of a ride.
Me too.
So the next time you're about to hit play on a movie, think about that journey, those power struggles, that fight for creative freedom, because it all led to the films we know and love today. Who knows what stories the future holds?
I can't wait to find out.